Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're going to be talking about a lot of things, and it's going to be breaking down into a lot of other separate videos, but I am not alone on this journey today. Joining me is one of our good friends over at pewterreport.com. You know him, you love him. It's Jon Ledyard. Jon, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. This has been a long time coming. I'm excited to be on the show with you.
It really has been, man. So for everybody watching this video, we are going to be doing a cross-promotional type thing. I told you guys we were going to have a good week of content coming up. I said this on the community tab. Jon's going to be with us here basically all week. He's going to be in every single video I have coming up here for the next 6 to 7 days. And then I will actually be going over onto the Pewter Report podcast and doing some stuff, talking with Jon and some of the guys over there. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you stay tuned in and go subscribe to the Pewter Report YouTube channel. I will, as always, have that linked down in the pinned comment down in the comments section below. But Jon, we have a lot of topics to cover today. We have about 6 or 7, and let's get started right away, okay? So the first thing that I want to talk about, and a lot of these have been articles that you, Mark, Scott, some of the other guys, you know, Matt and Taylor have written on pewterreport.com, but the first topic I want to talk about is Bruce Arians saying that he has no plans to retire here coming up soon. And I know that there's been a lot of, I guess, stigma, or maybe not stigma, assumption, if you will, about how, man, when Tom's done, Bruce is done, and that's just going to be the way it is. Who's going to be the next Buccaneers head coach? Is it going to be Byron Leftwich? Is it going to be Todd Bowles? What's going on with all of this? But Bruce Arians kind of came out and said, no, I don't have any plans to retire anytime soon. So kind of talk a little bit more about what's going on with that kind of situation and what Bruce Arians was talking about there.
Well, that makes it interesting that Bruce said that, because the draft pick of Kyle Trask, one of the reasons I wasn't sure they would go quarterback, we thought if the Bucs went quarterback, they would take Kyle Trask in the second round probably, or third round. We weren't quite sure, but we didn't know whether they would be inclined to go quarterback, just because of the fact that if Bruce Arians is done when Brady's done, and that's for sure, you know, if he's coaches 2 more years with Max, and he knows that, you know, he's not even going to be the coach for that next quarterback. And so why take one when you know you don't know what scheme or system you're going to run to a degree? I mean, Jason Light may feel like he has an idea of who he wants to hire. And certainly there's some similarities between Dirk Cutter and Bruce Arians' schemes. But at the same time, you know, there's a number of things you don't know that are unknown variables, you know, kind of if Bruce Arians isn't coaching after the next 2 seasons. So the fact that he seems pretty open to that is a good sign for Bucs fans, obviously, but also for the quarterback situation involving Kyle Trask. The Trask is going to really have an opportunity here. It's not just going to be, you know, 2 years of backing up Brady, then we'll throw him in with a new coach. But I think it's a good sign for Trask that he'll have a real opportunity to stay in the same offense for, you know, his rookie contract, maybe even the next 4 years, and learn, develop, grow in the same offense, and then see what really he can become. So to me, it was actually kind of less about Brady and Arians and more about what it means for Kyle Trask. And I think it could be a good thing for him. Yeah,
because, you know, a lot of people, I mean, obviously, the Kyle Trask pick was divisive, to be nice. Yeah,
that's a nice way of putting it.
You know, to be nice, it was divisive. You know, it's, you know, a lot of people were on either side of the fence there in terms of liking it or not liking it. Yeah. And exactly what you just said, you know, Bruce Arians, you know, how old is Bruce Arians now? Is he 60?
I think he's 69, or he's going to be 69 this season. Is that right?
I believe so. I think you're right. So, I mean, you know, that's going to be an interesting thing to pay attention to is, you know, his overall health here in the next couple of years. Obviously, he's saying this, but, you know, we don't know what's going to happen 2 years down the line with his health, maybe his family. Right. I know his family is a big factor in what he does with his career, you know, and that's commendable, but also that's something that you need to pay attention to. I'm going to be, you know, and also, like you said, with the Kyle Trask stuff, that's going to be huge for his development. You know, not only is he going to have 2 years now with this coaching staff, but, you know, hopefully more, you know, depending on what happens with, you know, some of the other guys like Byron Leftwich, like Todd Bowles, and I want to mention that in a second, but, you know, probably Clyde Christensen would maybe still be there for a couple of years with Bruce Arians after Tom Brady, if that happens. And you would figure a good chunk of those assistants still might be there as well. So like you said, that's great for the development of Kyle Trask and overall getting him more acclimated, keeping him comfortable with the Bucs going into his tenure as the Buccaneers quarterback when that eventually happens. Or Tom Brady might play until he's 50 and it might not happen at all. Who knows?
That's true. Yeah, it might not end up mattering if that happens. Kyle Trask may be kind of SOL there and just kind of sitting on the sidelines watching everything happen. But
yeah, maybe Bruce said that because he already knows. He's like, hey, Tom's gonna play until he's 50, so I'm gonna be. I don't want
to retire early if this guy's gonna go win a couple more rings for sure.
Exactly. So he's sitting there thinking like, oh, why would I miss out on that?
Right.
But I do have another question regarding the situation. What does that mean for Byron Leftwich and Todd Bowles and even Harold Goodwin going into these next couple of years? Because a lot of people assumed like, hey, either Byron Leftwich is going to be the next Buccaneers head coach, Todd Bowles is going to be the next Buccaneers head coach potentially, or like maybe Harold Goodwin since he's already the assistant head coach. Those would be the three top guys in terms of keeping that continuity and that succession plan. So I mean, if Bruce sticks to his word and he says, let's say he coaches another 4 years, 3 or 4 years, something along those lines. What happens to those three guys? Could you see them going off and getting head coaching jobs with other teams here in the next couple of years? Because Todd Bowles already had some interviews. Byron Leftwich is rising his way up the ranks essentially, and you could also make an argument there for Harold Goodwin. He should be getting some interviews.
Yeah, Goodwin, I think just his leadership and ability to kind of be an overseer, be a communicator, structure things. That's where, to me, more so than not that he's bad schematically. I don't recall him as a play caller enough to know that part of it. I think the run scheme for the Bucs is on the simpler side. That may be just what Arians wants. It may not necessarily suggest Goodwin's limitations in that way, but I think with him, it's the leadership ability. Like he has the vocal leadership ability, the people skills, all that kind of stuff that you want. So that makes Goodwin an attractive candidate. I have really hard time saying whether he'd get a head coaching job. It would kind of surprise me if he got a head coaching job this upcoming offseason, but we'll see how the year goes. I mean, who knows? Byron Leftwich is the most interesting one because he's still pretty young. And last year was really the first year, I think, and reading between the lines on Arians, I think he would agree that Leftwich really kind of took the reins and Arians was kind of a figurehead. He was more the administrator, leader, structure guy, the big picture guy. And Leftwich was more, this is my offense. I'm going to run this offense. And Arians was honest about that when he talked to us in the Peter Report podcast. He said, this was really Leftwich's thing, man. And he doesn't get enough credit for it. So because of that, I think that Leftwich could be, if that continues to happen this year and that team start to feel around and they're like, yeah, he's really taking control of this. Second half of last year, he came in, he did his own thing. Look what happened. They won 8 straight games. They won the Super Bowl. This year, they're a 2-loss team or something like that, or better. They make a deep run, and then it's like, all right, maybe we need to hire this guy. Leftwich is a character because he doesn't say anything, and some teams will love that. He doesn't talk to the media and say anything at all. And some teams will really like that he keeps everything close to the vest. It's kind of like the anti-Arians in that way. You couldn't get a quote out of Byron Leftwich, to save your life really. And so a lot of teams will like that part of it. Now the part that we don't know about with Byron Leftwich is the role that Arians is playing, the administrative, does he correspond with people? Does he take care of, the big picture stuff, or is he just a schemer? Is that what he does? Is that the scheme? And in that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff we can't see that we can't analyze and know until he gets that kind of a role. But can he be the big picture, the structure guy? Here's what our practice schedule is going to be like. Here's when we're going to scale players back from practicing. Here's how we're going to handle injuries. Here's how we're going to handle discipline. That's a lot. And he's a younger guy. And so that will need to be something that gets monitored by teams. But we've seen younger coaches get hired and do fine. So I'm not saying I have any concerns with him. Todd Bowles, to me, I think I would be surprised if, unless the defense really struggles, and they could. I mean, Todd Bowles' group certainly wasn't great all of last year. They were good in some key areas. They were definitely good in the key moments. And then the playoffs, they played their best football. And that was really due to him changing things that he'd done throughout his entire career. I think for most of Todd Bowles' career, he'd become pretty predictable. And that's why you have not seen him have a ton of success. Certainly they turned around things in Tampa Bay a little bit. No question defensively, he's made a big impact. but he kind of lost that the impact that he was making with the Jets, and then he came to Tampa Bay, and there was definitely some great early returns, and then things really kind of petered out last year, and it looked like that group was headed in completely the wrong direction going into the playoffs. And then he changed things schematically like he really had never changed them in his career. You know, some of the sites that track some of these coverages and stuff saying that the things he did, going to press in the heaviest volume of his career, going to cover 2-man at the heaviest volume of his career, totally threw teams off, and it was perfect for what the Bucs needed defensively. So if he continues to grow and evolve, I think Todd Bowles is one of the first hires next year as a coach, because that, to me, was the big concern, why he wasn't hired, why he wasn't at the top of lists. You know, is he just too predictable? Do everybody kind of know what they're getting with Todd Bowles, and that's just kind of is what it is, and he's not going to change. Yeah. Playoffs were a huge step in the right direction, not just because of the results, but the process changed and the process got better. So I am excited to see where things go with Todd Bowles this season, and obviously after it for him as a coach.
If you had to guess, how many years do you think Bruce Arians would have left? You know, in terms of him saying not retiring anytime soon, does that add an extra year? Does that add 2 extra years? Or is he just going to continue to go as long as Tom's going?
Yeah, I think he'll really take it year to year. I think he's being honest with us when he tells us, like, you know, it'll depend, you know, how I feel each year, and it probably will depend on his health too. So it's hard to say, you know, 7 years. I mean, that, you know, 74, 75 years old, that gets, you know, that's a long time. And so I would say probably 4, you know, if I'm just guessing right now, but it is a guess for sure. I mean, 3 to 4 seems to make sense to me. And I don't think he'll be tied to exactly what Brady does. But I think that when you get to be 72 and you come to work and your team is probably heading for 8 and 8, maybe they're better. I don't know. I mean, but I'm just saying, if Kyle Trask is your quarterback or Blaine Gabbert's your quarterback, maybe you lose a little bit of the enthusiasm for coming to work. That's a general statement, not a Bruce Arians statement, but I just wonder if that ends up creeping in at some point once you get to be a couple of years older.
Yeah, so we will definitely have to pay attention to all that, you know, probably watching Bruce take it from a year-to-year basis. How does his family factor into this? How does his health factor into this, and all those other different types of things? And it's definitely going to be worth keeping an eye on.